Welcome. I'm Dr. Serena Travis, and this is EDU 408, Professionalism and Teaching. This is a course offered through New Covenant University. So there is a handout that goes along with today's class, and there should be a link somewhere nearby in a description or somewhere in the syllabus perhaps. So there will be a handout available. So I will give you a moment to pause, print it out, and be back here to continue. If you did not find a handout, that's okay. We will continue, and you can just have a piece of paper, a pen, or a pencil handy to take notes. So, professionalism and teaching. What does it mean to be professional in your teaching? What does it mean to be professional at anything? A lot of it has to do with being ready. You need to be ready. That's the whole thing about teaching, is you need to be prepared ahead of time. Professionalism means that you are prepared and you have the skill set ready for whatever you're going to cover. Let's start with Roman numeral 1. Set expectations early. It's so important for you to set expectations for yourself as a teacher, as well as setting expectations for your student. Now, this may apply, and actually this class applies to either if you have one student or if you have many students. If you're teaching one class for a long period of time, or you're just teaching a one-off session. You can be teaching skills, you could be teaching information. Whatever it is, this course should apply to something within that realm. So we're trying to keep it very general. So 1, set expectations early. Letter A, prepare a syllabus. A syllabus is a list. It's a list of what you expect the student to do and what you are expected to do as the teacher once those items on the syllabus have been completed. It's basically a contract. What are those expectations? Well, that syllabus is basically your contract for that. Now, when you're teaching young students, you're not going to be handing out a syllabus to a class of first graders, but you will be preparing a syllabus for yourself as the teacher. It's called a lesson plan. And if you are doing, like for instance, when I prepared for this class, I prepared a handout. That in essence is our syllabus. This is the list that we're going to go through today for this class. Roman numeral 1, letter B, be accountable to your system. Once you have that system in place, you are accountable to it as well. Now, I alluded to that in the first point, but be accountable. Now, letter C is kind of a funny thing. It's not super serious, but for young teachers who are teaching students that may not be much younger than themselves, it could be true. So letter C is don't smile before Christmas. In other words, don't launch into humor too soon. You need to establish yourself as an authority to the students. So that sums up setting those expectations. Now, moving on to Roman numeral 2. Find a mentor. What is a mentor? A mentor has been where you haven't been yet. They have information that you don't have yet. They have experience. So finding a mentor, no matter what you're doing, whatever profession you're doing, you should have a mentor. In fact, going to letter A, there are 2 ways to learn: mentors and mistakes. So, which would you prefer? I think I would prefer to learn from mentors. Letter B. In general, the teaching profession goes hand in glove with the concept of mentoring. So that's letter B. In general, the teaching profession goes hand in glove with mentoring. A teacher is a mentor. So you, as the teacher, need to have a teacher mentor. Let's talk about a few things that a mentor may help you to do. And that's C, know your weaknesses. A mentor is going to help you determine what to do with those weaknesses. They may have experienced the same things in the past. And D, Share your frustrations. You don't want to share your frustrations with your students. That would be really difficult for them to learn. So you need to find someone who you can confide in with regarding those frustrations. Letter E, know what you can and cannot change. Your mentor will be the one to help you to determine which battles to fight and which battles to walk away from. Roman numeral 3, look the part. Now, what does it mean to look the part? You know, we can't all be dressed in a suit to do our teaching, but a suit may be a good requirement depending on your audience. Now, if you're teaching a bunch of cowboys, a suit probably wouldn't be appropriate. If you're teaching a scuba class, definitely not. So, letter A, examine the setting and adjust accordingly. Examine the setting and adjust accordingly. Letter B, appearances are more important than most people admit. You see, people will see you coming and they will make a decision about you before you open your mouth. It's just the way life is. You can't undo that. People make judgments all day long. So you just need to know that your appearance is important. Letter C is similar to B. Your students read your appearance before you speak. In fact, most people learn from watching before listening. That's an important point to remember. In fact, if you are having a bad day, your students will pick up on it. So it's important to settle yourself before you walk into that classroom, before you walk into that conference room, wherever it is you're teaching. If you are a piano teacher and your students are coming in and you just burnt a batch of cookies, well, you're just going to have to let it go, because your appearance as they walk through the door is really important, or you walk through the door, or either way. Roman numeral 4, wield your power wisely. As a person who's in charge of the setting, you have a lot of power. So be careful how you utilize that. Letter A, for better or for worse, a teacher is a role model. So it's important to know and be prepared for the type of role model that you are setting for those students. Letter B, this might seem like common sense, but I think it definitely bears mentioning. Think twice before fostering a friendship with a student. You really do need to think twice before fostering a friendship with a student. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be friendly to a student, but having a friend as your teacher could create some conflicts down the road. You are an authority in their life. You don't need to be a friend. Now, this may change later on in a more casual setting if you are teaching adults and you are an adult. So just keep it with a grain of salt. C, just remember that true power rarely calls attention to itself. What does that mean? It means that if you are in control, you rarely have to say, I'm the boss here, and start using language like that that just is unnecessary. You are the boss. You don't have to declare it and wield some crazy power. It doesn't have to constantly be proven. You are the boss. Just act like it. Roman numeral 5, see beyond the bubble of your class. See, when we set up a classroom, even with the creation of this video that you're watching right now, it's almost like we're in this bubble. We are in this closed time and space. But I have to realize that there are things beyond this bubble. When you're teaching, there are things beyond the bubble of your class. A, respect the other authorities that are in your students' lives. Now, if you're teaching young people, that means that they have parents, coaches. There are other people who are authorities in their life. If you have adults in your class, they may have an employer. Letter B, realize the greater community that surrounds your classroom. So there may be a greater community, whether it's your town or whether it's a bigger organization that is a part of what's going on in your students' lives. So that takes care of page 1, and we're going on to page 2. Please remember to just pause the video as needed so that you can take notes and keep up with the material. Roman numeral 6, mind the gaps. What kind of gaps would there be? A lot of this has to do with if you're in a greater community setting, like I mentioned in the last point, and you are a part of a school, or you're part of a network, or you're part of something that's bigger than just your classroom. Because, like letter A might suggest, there may be other non-glamorous tasks that are not in your job description. So, if you're one of those where you're doing a co-op setting and someone has to empty the trash and nobody's been assigned to empty the trash, well, that's what we're talking about. The non-glamorous job, cleaning the bathroom, that kind of stuff. So when you mind the gaps, you are setting an example for those around you. Now, some of them might get used to that and just be entitled, thinking, oh, well, there's so-and-so, she's always going to take care of that thing. But at least you would have respect, and also may be able to suggest, hey, this is something that I don't have to do alone. Let's create a schedule so that we can rotate this, or whatever. I mean, take charge, right? Take charge. Be a team player. That's what we were trying to foster here, because, hey, we don't truly live in a bubble. We do need the help of others. And C, so there's a gap between, hey, everybody's going to face challenges in your job. Challenges, especially teachers. Teachers, hey, you have that one student, or you have that one classroom that really has been a challenge, or you have a certain group within your classroom that's just like, oh my goodness, every day you're going through stuff. So there's this tendency to either be a complainer on the one end of the spectrum or a martyr on the far other side of the spectrum. Don't be either one. You don't have to be a complainer, and you don't have to be a martyr. So minding that gap for your own benefit is going to benefit your students, because you are taking care of yourself. You do have to take care of yourself as a teacher. None of your students are going to take care of you. I've just got news for you. So you have to be the one to mind those gaps and be able to take charge in situations where there is no description, there is no instruction. Okay, that's a good point to remember. You know it's a good one. Roman numeral 7, document everything. So what does that mean? That means, okay, the syllabus is going to be written down. You're not just going to say it verbally. That means that you're going to have a system in place where you anticipate potential problems and develop a system to resolve and document them. This is when you have groups. This is when you have people coming through that are just going to be filing through. You just need to have a standard operating procedures of how to handle problems, because guess what? There's going to be problems. And you have to let your students know how you're going to handle those problems. B, keep a paper trail on behavioral issues. This is especially true if you have students in your class and you're in a classroom setting and they are constantly misbehaving. Document it. You can't just go down 2 months down the road and say, oh, by the way, 2 months ago, little Johnny was acting up and said this and this. No, if you jotted it down that same day, it holds much more weight than jotting it down 2 months later. So document, write things down. And C, be aware of plagiarism. Why is this such a big deal? Well, because we have the internet and there are so many things available. So as a teacher, look out for plagiarism, but also try not to do it yourself, because it's easy to resort, the easy way out to just throw something out there. Continuing on Roman numeral 8. Watch out for the human factor. Kind of mentioned a few of these things in the last point, but there are some other things to keep in mind, like letter A. Beware of petty disagreements and workplace gossip. It happens in every profession, but you will be considered to be more professional if you don't resort to those things. Gossiping, petty disagreements. Just figure a way to resolve things quickly and finally. Resolve disagreements quickly and finally. And B, decide ahead of time how to handle emotionally volatile situations. People will press your buttons because we are not all made the same. So decide ahead of time how you will react, and that is what will happen. Roman numeral 9, keep up with the times. As an educator, we have access to tools that change from decade to decade, sometimes minute to minute now. Years ago, thousands of years ago, teachers were teaching with a clay slab and a stylus, and they wrote in cuneiform. So just think of the tools that have changed in just your lifetime. We didn't even have computers when I was in first grade, or they weren't accessible to students. Right around the time I was in the 5th grade, I was introduced to my first computer. And I can't remember for sure. I think it was a TRS-80. And it looked like a big calculator kind of thing. And then the Commodore 64, and then the Apple IIe came out. So these were tools that were changing. Now my dad, who is a teacher, he's been in education for many years. He was the one who was always on the cutting edge of technology. I remember using a dot matrix printer, actually years ago. I remember doing a newspaper. I don't know why I always loved doing newspapers, but I did in school. And I did a newspaper for my junior high, and we replicated that with a mimeograph machine. And boy, did that stuff smell. And if you remember, you would roll it and it would roll, and it was this kind of this purple ink, and you'd have to have just the right amount, and you would make this, this is the way you made copies, was mimeograph. And then the copy machine came out. And we used to call it Xerox because you Xeroxed everything. And then things changed. And then there was the dot matrix printer, and we printed everything out in dot matrix. In fact, I think that's how I made that newsletter, was on a dot matrix printer initially, and then ran them off on the mimeograph machine. And then the laser printer came out. Ooh, that was pretty awesome. I was so excited when that came out. So anyway, but my dad was always on that cutting edge of technology. So you need to keep up with the tools. A, your teaching should equip your students to go into the world and apply the skills and knowledge they have gained. They are going out into this world, and if you are not equipping them with skills that are relevant, what are they going to do? So their skills and knowledge should be relevant, and that clears up the rest of letter A. And B, which I was mentioning earlier with my little story, explore new tools and techniques. Letter B is explore new tools and techniques. If there's a new tool that's come out, if there is, there's new ways of teaching now. People are teaching with smart boards, iPads, computers, and this what we're doing right here, this is a new tool. How revolutionary to have your class for college be put on Facebook or YouTube. This is great. This is us using new tools and technologies to get this information across to you. Letter C. This is a tough one. Accept constructive criticism and evaluation of your teaching. Letter C. Accept constructive criticism and evaluation of your teaching. It may not be the funnest thing to get a review of how your progress is, but I think that it's a good thing. If there's something that you're doing really well, it's good to get the praise for that. But if there's something that can be improved, it's great to get the feedback. There's always something that can be just a little bit better. And finally, wrapping it up for today with Roman numeral 10. Be authentic. What does it mean to be authentic? Well, you are you. You cannot be someone else, unless you're an actor. But then you're only pretending to be someone else. I mean, I love Tom Hanks as playing Disney in that movie Saving Mr. Banks, but that was Tom Hanks playing Walt Disney. It wasn't Walt Disney. So, but it is good to be yourself. Be authentic. You are not someone else. Develop a teaching style that builds on your strengths and minimizes your weaknesses. So in order to do that, that means going to that mentor, asking for their advice. How can I build on my strengths? How can I minimize my weaknesses? And still be me, because I'm not going to be the same as that teacher next door. I'm not going to be the same as that teacher down the street. I need to be able to teach using what I have and be willing to not try to be someone else. I don't know, that sounds really weird, but it's interesting because sometimes we start to emulate those who we are listening to. It's easy to emulate your mentor because your mentor is the one who's giving you all this information. But you need to be unique in yourself because your students are going to spot that, from a long way away. And then finally, seek experiences outside of your profession. Seek experiences outside of your profession. Why would we want to seek experiences outside of our profession? Well, it really helps us to be a better, well-rounded individual. Because if you are solely focused in on one small slice of your life, you're not seeing the whole big pie, which is why I put that chart inside this handout. So let's take a look at this chart. Look at this, 33% of your life is spent sleeping. So that goes straight off the board right there. 5% of your life is spent eating, 7% driving, 13% is dedicated to work. Only 13% of an average lifetime is dedicated to your profession. And then 42% is everything else. So that everything else is going to have an impact on that 13% that you are dedicating towards your profession. So I hope you found this class very informative. Thank you so much for tuning in and doing this class. We appreciate your efforts at NCU. And if you have any questions or if you still need to sign up for this class, go to the website ncu.education and do the application form for this class, and the syllabus will be listed on the website. Hope you have a blessed day. Roman numeral. If we have another outtake. Well, and now Roman numeral F. Roman numeral F. That's not an F. That's not a letter. Roman numeral F. We're going on in the background and it is driving me crazy. Finished that syllabus or the syllabus. Letter. Not letter. Blah, blah, blah. That was so cute. Hey. Elvis. Elvis is helping me teach this class. Elvis is the official mascot of New Covenant University. And right now he is cheering for you, the student, as you continue your education. Can you hear in dog talk that's go NCU? Go NCU.